am a representative of any kind of good person, because I work on being a decent human being every day, but I fail every day. I will say this much as just a regular down home like chick, dude. I don't feel as though that you were wrong in having those feelings of wanting. It's not being even vindictive or vindicated. Vindicated. It's not even that you were trying to be vindicated. It was just some kind of justification. I don't know why someone would ever want to harm you or anyone like that. And for that alone, I don't know. I guess if given the opportunity, I'm pretty sure as a Christian, I'm saying I would rot in hell for sinning, and that is harming anyone up until the sin of thou shalt not kill, killing someone that ever raises a finger or hurts a child. So, yeah, anyway, I'm saying that, and I hope that my atheist friends don't hugely hold that against me. And if so, it is what it is. But I'm sorry, and those are not good people. Those are bad fucking people. And if I could, I'd destroy them, even to the point of me spending the rest of my life in prison to make so that never would happen to you or anyone that's a kid.
He's definitely somebody who, I've had a hard time forgiving, and I don't think I fully have, and I don't know if I ever will, even though forgiveness is important. I do try to understand or forgive him because I don't want to weigh it down on me. But here's the thing the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I realized this, a couple of things happened. First thing, right away, I realized, wow, okay, this is why I realized everything. And then after I did, I started thinking about, well, you've had a pretty magical life, though. I've been an artist. I ran around. I followed the Grateful Dead for 10 years, which is definitely an experience not to have been missed. I've been so fortunate in my experience.
Badass, dude.
And so, I feel like I superseded. I'm not a victim. I'm not poor meing myself. So I spend a bit of time going yeah, adverse situations sometimes are not good, but they sometimes end up leading to really awesome things. Like there are people who grew up, with no running water, and then they end up starting writing a code and becoming some of the most powerful people on the planet.
In Tennessee that has huge whirlwinds of for the river that actually helps the environment and helps eliminate a lot of waste with electricity. Absolutely, yes. My question is, sir, to that, where the fuck were the people that should have been there for you when you were a kid? Why were they innocent bystanders not doing anything?
My dad,
that's what bothers me.
My mom passed away.
I'm sorry.
No, I understand. Look, my dad, he also has since passed away, but at the time, he read the article the same day I did, and I saw him. And he was like, did you read the article? And I'm like, yeah. And at that time, after that article came out, I was getting phone calls from all these family members who also read it, and they were like, I'm so sorry for judging you always. I'm so sorry for always thinking you were the bad kid. I'm so sorry for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, don't worry. I'm a survivor and I'm a thriver, and I've had so many experiences. I'm not going to pull out right now, but I've done stuff that if you read my CV, your jaw would drop. I'm not suffering, and I mean I might have a strange existence because I'm certainly not somebody who ever collected money. But I was like, don't worry about me, and I appreciate the fact that you're understanding now that maybe you misjudged, but let's not dwell there. My dad couldn't admit it. My dad was like, well, he didn't do anything to you. And I'm like, Dad. And he's like, no, he didn't touch you. And I'm like, Dad. And then he was like, well, we didn't know. And it was the 70s and they were naive, but I'm sorry. I have a 17-year-old boy as a babysitter. Don't just think maybe the daughter's, getting too old, so we shouldn't have him. Maybe the guy likes be a little bit. They should have been a little bit more cautious, but whatever. My point is, I was talking in a survivors group at one point, and I said, I told them the same thing that I'm telling you. And here's the other thing, you'll like this. After I was in a daze, I walked around for a couple of hours, sort of shocked, and then I went to go have a bite. Went to have lunch, and I just moved back to town, so I didn't even have any food in my kitchen. So I went to this little restaurant, And I don't usually say grace. I sometimes do, but for some reason, I was like, okay, say grace. And here's the thing, there was this horrible house music blaring, like really loud. The speakers were too loud in this restaurant, and it was like, and I was able to say grace, but for some reason, and I said it like, I don't know if you know the Rainbow Family, the hippie spiritualist people. Um, they say thank you, Creator, for all these nutrients before they eat. So I start to say that. Thank you, Creator.
You worship Jesus Christ, though?
I wouldn't say that I worship Jesus Christ. I'm a polyglot. I was raised, my parents are Jewish. I was bar mitzvahed. I've read the Upanishad and the Vedas. I read the Temple of the Mount according to Vedanta. I love the Temple of the Mount. I also love the Essenes, and I think the Essenes are a misunderstood group of early Christians that there are some documents in the scriptoriums in monasteries that say that in Aramaic, so they've been translated, but they say that Jesus was an Essene master. So I'm down with the program, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm any one thing. But here's the thing.
I got you.
But
My
here's the thing.
Wi-Fi cut out. I'm sorry about that. I missed like one. Sorry.
I've had two instances in my life where I've talked to whatever you want to call him, God, Creator, Force. Once was the first time that I had a newspaper article, a full-page article written about some films of mine, and then all of a sudden the synagogue where my parents would go, everybody was like shaking my hand, even though I was the bad kid that did drugs, and like you're always like,
definitely.
Lee's the bad boy, and then all of a sudden, because of the newspaper articles, everybody's running up to shake my hand, and I didn't want to be argumentative with my parents about the language in the prayers or anything, so I just kept my mouth shut, watched my breath, clasped my fingers, had them tucked under my shirt. I was just in a deep meditative state. And then they asked me to this big honor to open up the ark where the Torah is, and everybody stands up, and as soon as I opened it, this thought came out of me and shot into the Torah. Like I could see the thought almost like come right out of me, and I couldn't even stop it. I didn't even have time to stop it, and it was like, are you good or bad? And the answer that came back right quickly was like, poof. And I was like, holy shit, okay, kudos. But here's the thing. So I'm in this restaurant, this music's blaring, and I'm about to say thank you, Creator, for these nutrients. And instead, I said, thank you, Creator, for all your gifts. Like, smart ass me. Like, I know that I survived. I know I have magical experiences, regardless of some stuff that happened when I was a kid. And so I said, thanks for all your experiences. And this music, which was like deafening and wouldn't stop, all of a sudden, like as I said what I said to God, like, thank you for all your experiences, the music started. Christina Aguilera was in the mix, a sample where she started saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it also says Christina, which I'm Kristen, and I think there's some divinity behind the name Kristen. I'm just kidding.
I believe you. Look, I think that's...
I'm being a bit silly. I'm being a bit soft-trolling right there, but that is a powerful song, a very powerful ballad. And what you went through is insanely awesome for you to come out on top and to be the kind of human being that you are, to be able to talk to other people. And if you would, and I never have ever asked this before, but not only did I mod you, first time ever talking to my club and follow you, I hope that you will follow me back. And we would love to make you a leader in this club. And so that if you ever could tell that, I would say testimony, if you could ever speak to that, if we ever have a topic about maybe even sexual immorality or even religion to the tune of theology, because I was Christian Catholic. I want this to be very clear, and I really hope once, if given the opportunity with you to do this room again, I want to make sure that it's very, very well me said. Like I'm saying, I have no hatred towards any denomination of the religion of Christianity or any religion. I am actually a Christian. I should be Catholic, but I'm not. I don't have anything against the Catholic Church or denomination of Catholicism. However, there is many aspects of its dogma that I cannot subscribe to. I will not subscribe to. There are many things that are actually factual that has happened historically throughout the Catholic Church that I think that definitely it needs to be spoken to and spoken about, that it has not been talked about. But for you to be that bold and that strong, to be that cool and that confident, to be able to tell your story like that, you're beyond a good person. You're far better of a good person than I could ever dream to be. And I really honestly am inspired by hearing you speak. And I would love, love, love nothing more than to have you as a leader of my club.
Oh my gosh! Well, thanks so much. I mean, I'm a little bit bad with time. Unfortunately, that's not my.
Dude, I'm the biggest fucking procrastinator ever. Like, you will never get shit done.
I procrastinate and I take stuff on, and then I'm like, oh,
You're
okay.
ADHD.
Wednesday.
I really am.
And I'm always shocked that, like, I've always been shocked. I used to think it was because I smoked a lot of pot, but I don't even smoke a lot of pot anymore. But I mean, almost none. Now, and if I do, it's like a tiny little, like almost like a microdose. But like, I used to be like, how do people know to like show up every week at the same time for like an event? Even like outdoor softball in the summer, I'm like, how do they know how to do that? Like, what kind of magic did they possess that they can do that?
Every day, Monday through Friday. It's ridiculous.
I don't understand.
What do you expect out of me? I'm just kidding.
Somebody signed me up for some schedule that I don't know how to adhere to. I understand.
And then
It's amazing.
put it on your
Are you
phone.
friends with Candace? Candace, have you been harboring lean and not giving this to me? How long have you been doing this, Candace? Go ahead, be honest. It'll make you feel better. Purge it out.
How long have we known each other, Candace? It's a while.
I don't know, but I haven't. I'm just finding my way back to Clubhouse and actually participating more quiet these days. Trying to find my voice again here.
Yeah, I find it's really interesting here. I enjoy it, and I certainly have enjoyed your presence, Candace. Even in Michael James's room, I've seen you, and in the what are those women called? There's a
Flourish.
women. What? Yeah, Flourish. Yeah.
Flourish. Yeah, I met a lot in there, and I was there when you were the special guest, and you shared about your art and the drawing. And I remember you guys talked to particularly for me as a blind person, and no, I remember you very well. I recognize your voice when I hear your voice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you too. Likewise. But I just wanted to add one thing. Okay, the weird thing and why I was bringing this story up before was because I went into this survivor group and I said the same thing, basically, that like I'm not a survivor, I'm a thriver. And like, you know, I focus on a lot of my art is about climate change, and I've been dealing with climate change since the 90s when like nobody cared about it. Everybody I knew, even people who are now like really hip to the program, back then they were like, I want it to be warmer. What are you talking about? And I'm like, that's not how it works. So I've been dealing with like these kinds of issues, and so when I was talking to this group, I was like, I'm not a survivor. I'm like, yes, I am, but there's a lot more to this story, and there's also a lot more to all of you. And they were like, you know, Lee, that's toxic male. What did they say? Toxic male something. I forget now what, but it was like a toxic male syndrome or something. And I'm like, really? Like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you guys, but with you folks, with you people. But at the same time, I don't see that as toxicity. I see that as like, I want to see the bigger picture. I want to see the divinity in my experience. And like, I'm not about to judge God for something that I don't understand that they did, because I don't understand the whole picture, and I might never understand the whole picture, but I certainly don't want to blame him or chastise him or curse the divinity that created all of this beauty because of something that happened to me that was like not a positive moment. And they're like, that's toxic masculinity. And I was like, you know what? Okay, this isn't the place for me, obviously, because like I want to supersede. And all of us, you know, to different degrees, almost all of us have had horrible things happen to us in our lives. So how do we bounce back, and how do we grow, and how do we get better? And how do we make sure that we are better people so that we can make sure these things don't happen, as opposed to like putting on an armband and then telling everybody, you don't understand because this thing happened to me when I was 7, which actually was like 5 to 8. But like, whatever. I'm not going to say, you don't understand me because of this, because that's like, I'm not identifying and I'm not making that my whole essence and my being. You know what I mean? But I'm not judging anybody if they are in that mode. But at the same time, if somebody tells me that my attitude is toxic, I'm like, holy shit, dude! You should have seen me like not turn tricks when I was like 14. When that's what was like, that's where I could have ended up going because some creepy old men were getting me liquored up when I was 14 because I was running away from school, and I decided, no, I didn't take money and I didn't go down that route. And nothing against you if you did. I'm just, for me, that wouldn't have been a positive route, and it would have been part of the victimology, and I don't want to have a victimology. So it's very strange, like that. Then somebody could say, instead of like, kudos to you for healing and kudos to you for seeing the bigger picture, they're like, you're just toxic masculinity. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? That's a very strange way to attack part of the group, and so. I don't know what I'm saying here. I felt like that was.
I really appreciate what you're saying, bro. Just keep going with positive energy.
Yeah.
That's really respectful. I love that.
No. Well, I'm so relating the, like, and I'm imagining, many people, there's so many sides to this. Like, on one level, there's the side where I want to be understood. There are times when I really want people to understand what my experience is, what I've seen, my memories, blah, blah, blah. But I want to be more than that. And, like, I'll never forget, like, when I myself, I was that same, similar but different. I endured a lot of abuse as a child. And at the hands of every one of my caregivers. I knew nothing but to love them. They were taking care of me. They were loving me. Eventually, as I got older, I learned. But so today, for me, like, it's this balance of allowing myself to be angry and to be mad and to feel the pain and whatever else, while also I feel that space of I don't even know if the understanding is the word, but yeah, I don't want to carry the weight of my entire life of being pissed off and angry and feel like the whole world was out to get me. Like, these were my caregivers and providers.
And your innocence was stolen from you, and your trust in people and your love was abused. So it's totally understandable if you have anger, and you gotta go through that and work on healing that. Obviously, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir because, Candace, I think you've probably done a lot more work than the average person on this planet. But like, yeah, those are normal and understandable processes. And I think that it's just really important to remember, to me, we're all infinite. We're all divine. Like, I when I come up to the mountain, if I do have a mantra, I usually say God in all and all in God, and just repeat that, like, God in all in God. Like, somebody walks up the street and they look a little homeless on the park when I'm walking here, and I'm like, God's in all in God. And like they might be like maybe 100 feet away from me, and I'm like, God's in there, God's in that person, God's everywhere. And then when they make eye contact, then I'm not a threat because I'm seeing the divinity and the divinity in them. And and so it's unfortunate when people can't see that because they've closed themselves off to that reality, and instead are like, no, now I'm a victim. Now that's my raison d'etre, and that's who I am. That's how I define myself. And it's like, now you're locking yourself in that. Like, you're now punishing yourself. Like, they did horrible stuff to you, but they're dead. If they're not dead, they're maybe in jail, or maybe they're still around, but in their own personal hell. And even if they're not, they're gonna have their own comeuppance, and it's gonna happen. And who cares what happens to them? Like, almost like I'm like, well, that guy, when he was in jail, maybe stuff happened to him, because bikers do not like kitty pornographers. So maybe stuff happened to him, and part of me hopes that something did happen to him. I did write the Atlantic, and I was like, you guys really should do some fact checking. And I wrote to all the publishers, David Frum, everybody. I wrote it to everybody. I wrote it to my local paper, and they actually replied to me, and they were like, Lee, and I'm like, because I wrote to him, and I'm like, I assume that there's at least 100 victims from this guy. He was a coach for 35 years. And they're like, yeah, we all assume that there's more.
Let's just not do that, man. Let's not do that. I don't believe in that. That's kind of fucked up. Just to even think about stuff like that. But it's hella cool that you talk about it and you tell people, you reach out to people telling them that shit is not okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, and dude, he was trying to get a book deal. And they told me about it. The journalists were like, whoa. He was trying to get a book deal for this, not just the Atlantic article. But enough backlash happened because I wasn't the only one talking up. And all the book companies said, no, we're not going to publish your book. That's all lies, and you're insane, and you're evil. And so, I think it's important to speak, and I'm sorry if there's any trigger warnings here. I'm sorry if I was too much information.
No, it's real. It's fucking real, and people shouldn't be doing this shit. Straight up.
Well, so the word should, yeah, we could, but it happened. And so, yeah, I feel like what you're sharing, what we're talking about is what do we do with whatever did happen, And
everybody else, everybody could understand what's really going on.
I'm sorry, what was that?
He has to share real stories, what's really happening.
I gotta tell you, don't do it. 18, what are you doing? Cha-ching! Another withdrawal.
Anyone perhaps who wants to debate? I think there are a few potentially good topics. One is the existence of God. If anyone wants to defend that, welcome. And the other one is believing in God is just beneficial. And maybe we could talk about veganism as well. If someone
talking to John Lee is a mistake. Yeah, don't give that guy a
Carpenter. So did he make
just know that John Lee is
perfect chairs, and would they still be up?
you shouldn't talk to.
He was a tectone.
Yeah, I make that mistake.
I think that
Tectone means somebody that works with their hands.
Yeah.
That's all it means. We don't know.
So he was a tradesperson. We don't really know what he...
Yeah, but whatever he did wouldn't be, whatever he built would be perfect and wouldn't rot, right? I mean, this has got to be...
Well, no, because I think I think the Christian account was he didn't really become divine until he was filled with the Holy Spirit, not until he was baptized. Before then, he was just an average dude.
Oh.
Yeah, also, settle down.
But that changed because the early Christian schools before Nicene, a reporter used to think there used to be debate on whether he wasn't even a man. They used to think he was a god. That changed in early Christian schools. They used to wonder, debate amongst themselves, well, was he a man? Was he a god?
So he had no divine powers before the baptism?
I think that's a lot of the current model, depending on the denomination. It depends. Calvinists are different. Baptists are different. It's all different.
True. It's very difficult to nail them down. They've learned that.
I liked The Last Temptation of Christ. I thought, even though that has his miracles in it, I thought that was a more look at the time, and because Judas Iscariot's a zealot. It's a good book, and the movie wasn't bad. It borrowed from some New Testament apocrypha as well, so that's why the guy was excommunicated, and the movie was deemed heretical. Because it's not biblical.
Yeah, there's and this is something that I notice a lot of Christians do, is they just read the Bible, and unfortunately, without context, you get people like Darth who start recounting the exchange between Nicodemus and Jesus, where there's a play on words, right? And Jesus, he says, Nicodemus says, born again, born anothen, and he asks, what do you mean? How do I get born again? Like crawl out of, my mom again twice? And that exchange, that play on words, can only work in Greek, because anothen only means two things in Greek. And of course, I brought that up to Darth. Just had no idea what I was talking about. No clue.
No, he's a Christian literalist, so he doesn't look at the Bible.
Sola Scriptura is the answer. That's what happened.
Test. Can anyone hear me? Test.
Yes, sir.
No one can hear me, Gavin. Oh, cool.
Can't hear you, Gavin. Sorry.
Yeah. Rob, I issued a debate challenge to you. Do you want to accept it or not?
I'm sorry, you issued a debate challenge. Did I find this on an app? Is there a debate challenge app that I'm missing?
No, I issued a debate challenge to Rob. I'm just
wait, Gavin, just 1 second, Gavin. We've got Darth Dawkins in the room. So, Darth, the last time you spoke to me, I asked you for your argument for God's existence because, you're like a supreme debater. The argument that you gave last time was, we can know that God exists if God has revealed himself. Premise 2, God has revealed himself. Conclusion, God exists. I said that the premise 2 presupposes that God exists, therefore it's question begging. Do you have a response to that? It's also affirming the consequent, even if it's not question begging. So, do you have a response to that? Maybe you can put the argument in text chat. We're waiting, Darth.
You can only type.
Oh, he's gone. Oh no, he's still there. Darthy boy, come on up.
What we could do is
Darthy boy, come on.
What
if we're going to have Darth up, can we have someone so we can have an exchange? And not Darth just over talking all the time.
Yeah, we will.
Like I just spoke, I'll go over and talk.
We can, if Darth wants to come
just give him mods. Give him mods.
No.
What could go wrong?
Guys, everyone just shut up.
If Darth wants to come up, we can do it one-on-one.
Sorry, Billy.
Yeah, no, that's alright. We'll give him, Darth, we'll give you free reign. We'll give you 3 minutes each. So it'll be me 3 minutes, you 3 minutes. Or 1 minute, or 2 minutes. Whatever you want, Darth.
You're not in charge, right?
Let Murphy do it.
I'm just saying, Darth is a supreme debater. He says that atheism is irrational. Well, what do you mean by that, Darth? Do you mean that it's a contradiction? What's the contradiction?
Because God is contingent upon our very existence. That's a contradiction.
It is retarded. I know it.
I invited you up, Darth. What's wrong, Darth?
Well, he has 6 dinner appointments scheduled in the next 30 minutes.
Well, we'll wait for that. Gavin, did you say you issued Rab a challenge or Rob a challenge?
Rob.
Because Rob would be great. Rob is a much better person.
Settle down, Rab.
You guys hate people that eat. Settle down. You hate Christians. You hate people that eat dinner. What's with all this hatred?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's the hold up, Rob? Why you haven't responded to that challenge?
You guys need God in your lives.
Murphy, it's not that I dislike it, it's that Darth doesn't debate. He interrogates people, and then he puts on another opposition and shuts them off before they can explain themselves. He doesn't it's not like with John Lee or Matt where they'll have an interlocutor and they'll let you go back and forth. He just when he has mods, he takes control and he interrogates.
Well, look, I'm sure.
Well, look, Darth,
I'm sure that like Darth might be open. Let's just see if he is. So we can have Darth up here, and like it's going to be in 2 minutes each. There's only one person that's going to be allowed to speak. We could do that. We could try that. If you want Darth come up, you can choose.
We
you want
can
to
if nobody in the room has been blocked. I'm assuming some people he blocks
in the room.
removes.
No, he's in the audience. He's in the audience.
No one has a block.
It's like you want evidence for God, and Darth provides it to you, and then you hate him for it.
No,
Like,
Darth just asserts it. He doesn't provide evidence. He just makes an
blocked
assertion.
me and removed me from his room yesterday.
Just makes a claim. That's all he does, an assertion. The assertion is that God already exists, and you argue.
Well, Darth, why don't you just present the argument in text chat? Because I asked you that a while ago. Like, are you typing it out? Like, I assume it's a long argument because I asked you a while ago. So I'll give you like another minute. But if it's easier just for you to explain the premises or something, on VC, and you want to come up here, you can do that as well. We're all waiting. We're dying to hear this argument.
Can we please have? Can you not remove e-bike? He's pretty cool. It's,
He's pretty cool.
Sorry.
E-bike's like, I don't mind e-bike. It's just he starts trolling sometimes, and he just destroys
Nothing he
it.
said wasn't a troll. No.
Who cares? Even if I am trolling, what difference does it make? Stop being a baby, you fucking crybaby bitch.
So yeah, he's
Jesus
pretty cool,
Christ.
Matthew.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yo, chill. Well, who cares if I'm trolling? Deal with what I say. You can't handle it, you little bitch. What the fuck?
Come on.
Why are
Let's
you
calm
crying?
down. Let's calm down.
Well, fuck.
Whoa, Rab Scuttle. Fuck, Jesus, man.
Hey, Rob, can you calm down, please?
Yeah, Rab, settle down.
For real, last
Banging
time,
the drawers, kicking
God,
things.
seriously, dude, this is it's getting it's out of hand, Rab.
Yeah.
Oh, women,
Just
bitch.
contain that anger, Rab. Contain that anger. You don't smash
I
it.
will allow it.
That's how e-bike speaks to his mom, right?
E-bike keeps telling me to get on the Jesus diet. I think I'll get on a diet. I don't think I need Jesus to get on a diet, though. We both agree that
I'm the disingenuous one. You motherfuckers are like, oh, God doesn't exist. Oh,
Murphy, can we please just remove?
reason to believe that.
E-bike, have a
It's
conversation.
just-
Don't get E-bike, you're a better person than
Mom, I don't can't be triggered that I'm 35 and I got a job and moved out. Fucking be triggered, Mom.
Calm down, guys. Hold on a second. Calm down. Hold on.
Fucking evidence. That's what you motherfuckers are. Without evidence.
E-bike, you're a cool man. Be better than that. Don't swear, man. Come on. We've chatted before.
Jesus Christ swore. He
Let's move past this.
Pharisees, hypocrites.
How do you... Does anyone know how to say fuck in Aramaic?
One second, Stu. Oh, hold on. Come on, Peter. Let's just get past this. You're back to the audience. Let's just move past it and have like the conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Did Darth respond? Does he actually want to talk? It can be like a one-on-one, Darth, if you want. And it will be like a minute.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be with me, Darth. Like, I'll move to the audience if you don't want to speak to me. Because apparently I'm like a stalker and a troll, so I'll move to the audience if you want.
You have been adjudicated to be a troll. I will not share the stage with a troll.
Everyone who basically dodges refuses to fall into his interrogative line of questioning is either
is gone. Is gone.
Troll without referencing the necessity of referencing the necessity of the necessity of God.
Alright, we're doing too much like Darth bitching, I think. It's like it caused the threshold.
That was so funny.
Tolerable.
I wouldn't want to talk to you guys if I was him either.
Hey Murphy, maybe you should try to talk to Darth sometime and you'll see how much why we...
I have talked to Darth many times.
He's a wonderful person to talk to.
I have talked to Darth many times.
That was
I'm
really
sure
funny.
you enjoyed those conversations very much.
I mean, look, I said that I enjoyed them. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of boring when people just do the bitching about the art.
Oh, I agree.
Over and over again.
I don't want to give him any energy. I was just saying because he was going to come up. If he's going to come up, don't give him mods, and just stop him talking over talking people. We've got to have a back and forth, not just I'm going to hog the mic and tell everybody
do you think Darth is going to come up when there's Murphy, there's me?
He won't, because he wants to control the room. He won't be able to. He won't be able to share, because like there's many other people that I debate who I can basically have back and forth. Just Darth isn't interested in doing that. He wants control.
But no one's under any illusions. No one's under any illusions about like Darth in this debating style. Like, there's no point. Everyone knows that he, can't defend his views. It's like a waste of time.
I will
like
have
if he
to
walks
say, Billy, off topic, your cat is like, I cannot express in words how serious your cat looks. He looks extremely.
It's a she. Her name is Nina.
He's a better debater than you, Billy. What the fuck are you talking about?
But Billy,
I think that's fine.
Nina's a very serious looking.
Is anyone interested in talking about maybe like veganism? Does anyone want to come up and defend either position, that it's fine or it's not fine to eat meat?
I would like
I'd be interested to know the vegan's position on vegetarianism.
I'd like to just defend leather use, if that's okay. I think that they're with all.
Can I?
Wait, Stuart. Can I just
fine.
finish real quick? Thanks. There's a lot of cows that are used in this country, or in this world, basically. You can disagree or whatever with that. But the movement against leather is not good because, number one, there's a climate emergency, so a lot of these alternatives are oil-based, and even if they aren't, they're oil-intensive. And number two, it's good to use everything that you're going to use. So as long as we're killing and eating these cows, I think it's good to use what is also, in many cases, a superior product, right? Leather also lasts, in many cases, much longer than these replacements and provides like a better quality as well during the usage. So breathes better, things like that. So it's really hard to beat full grain, tough leather for some.
Maybe that's an interesting argument. Do you have an
opinion? Well, I mean, the leather industry, it's arguable, results in more cows' deaths than the meat industry. And that's just like leather from cows. There are leather from other animals that are made. I mean, the leather industry is incredibly cruel.
What?
I mean, I don't know what more there is to say, right? Like,
Billy, do you think that there are cows being raised for leather?
I just thought they took them off the ones they killed for meat.
Okay, that's not happening, Billy. I could tell you that there may be one or two out there that I actually am very familiar with tanneries and things like that, and that is not the case. There's too much cows. There are too many cows for the leather industry to use. It's being used as basically cheap filler in like dog food sometimes. I mean, leather is next to worthless. Treating the leather, that's the expensive part, and actually staining it properly in those giant drums. You have to tumble them for 3 or 4 days to get the ink to penetrate well enough to make a quality product. That's what makes it expensive. Each drum is about $300,000.
Okay, I don't see how that's like responding to what I've said. I'm saying that, like, I mean, I don't have empirics on hand. I mean, I can try and get them for you, but like,
well, I know what you're saying. If the argument is that by using leather, we are perpetuating the usage of animals for our own benefit, then I don't have an argument against you there. That's a good argument. But if the argument is that we're raising cows for their leather, I've got to just politely disagree with that. But I'm assuming you're vegan, and from what I understand, vegans are against the use of animals for our benefit if it's not necessary. So I wouldn't have an argument against that. However, I would just say that we have a climate emergency, so we have to use.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, if you're like, for example, I have like a leather belt, for instance, that I like, bought before I was vegan, and like I'm not going to chuck that out just because I'm vegan. There's no point, right? So if you're saying like, let's say you like see a dead cow on the side of the road and you decide to eat it and use the skin for leather or whatever, like I don't have a moral qualm with that. Or if like, let's say you have a farm sanctuary and then a cow dies from old age, or you have to put a cow down because it's old and sick, and you decide to use the cow for leather, like that's fine. But that's just not the case at the moment, right? I just don't know what more to say.
I appreciate the discussion.
If there was,
I think it's like an empirical claim, because you would agree. Sorry, Haiti. But I just want to say that you would probably agree that if it's the case that leather and buying leather contributes to like the demand for leather, which then contributes to more cows being killed in these horrific ways, then it would at least be a net negative, yeah. So if that's the case, then it's just really an empirical claim that I need to support.
But that is it's useful to learn that is your position, because I've been kicked out of many vegan circles saying even if that is the case, you are still using an animal's products for your own benefit. And I just am of the camp, more of the Native American, use it kind of, if you've already done it, I mean, you should use that, what you've killed.
yeah, I'm just curious. So you're saying, Ryan, that leather comes from the cows in the slaughterhouse who've been killed for meat. I was also wondering where sheepskin comes from. Is that because sheep aren't typically killed for their meat, right? But
I think there's a lot more
do they get raised to be killed for sheepskin, or do they just when they die off, they skin them? I assume it's not.
I'm going to do more research about it.
Okay.
What I can tell you, what I do know, is that the actual raw product of the leather is almost worthless.
It's just the hides, right, of the cow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, it's so easy.
What do you think about it? Yeah.
It's so easy for the most part to avoid leather. It just seems
not that hard to avoid. Actually, sheepskin might be harder, especially if you like your Uggs, Australian blonde, shout out to Uggs.
Well, I would just say, like, why
climate,
would somebody
sheepskin coat is extremely warm.
Yeah. I just don't know why somebody would want to. I mean, in many cases, in my opinion, it's one of the best products you can get. Like, let's take, full grain leather belts. I mean, that product will work and keep its, keep together for potentially, decades, versus a cheap, like, oil-based, leather equivalent. It's,
Well, I mean,
you can get leather made from bamboo and stuff.
There you go, bamboo leather.
Yeah, but those are climate intensive, is my point.
Yeah, but look, I mean, if you want to make a spreadsheet, what's worse for the climate? Raising animals for food and leather.
Correct, but if you're already
using alternatives for leather.
But hey, it's a
So it's a
The
byproduct.
question of it's already there, right? So we would
Well,
agree. We would agree if you don't want to raise the cattle, then you shouldn't raise the cattle, sure, but
well, presumably, if we stop eating animals for meat, cows will just be like, or dairy, cows will just
sure.
die out. There won't be bread anymore, right?
Yeah, and I can make
So
an
we don't want.
adjacent argument that if you are going to eat meat, it would be a lot better to kill one animal than, say, 300 animals, right? And so the way that chickens are treated and the way that chickens are raised, at least in this country and in most countries, the amount of meat that it takes to equivalent one cow to chickens is about, my understanding, 277 chickens to make the amount of meat of one cow. And also, I'll just say that cows have the advantage of they're so big that if you literally just kept them inside and fed them corn, you would feed them almost more in corn than they're actually worth. So as a result, like most cattle in this country anyway, roam on and eat grass because it's free. So that's what the farmers do. And then they're corn finished is what it's called. And so they're brought in for the last part of their life and fed a bunch of corn. So I would say that, no doubt, like Billy and I would probably say if I were vegan that you shouldn't eat any meat, but I would say that there's probably less and more ethical ways to do it if you're going to do it. And in my opinion, that's a much better quality of life that cattle get than chicken get.
Sure. I mean, sorry, Haiti. I keep. I don't think videos lie, and I mean, like, the videos that I've seen are pretty conclusive. Whether they come from the leather industry, is is up for debate. But like when I've seen, foxes be skinned alive, it's like, well, why is that occurring? Like, is it for fox meat? I don't think so. When I've seen like turkeys be skinned alive and other animals be skinned, it's like,
oh yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say all leather was. I was just talking about cow leather.
Sure, but I mean, I don't think they tell you what the leather is made from.
I mean, but you could just tell, right, by holding it.
I'm not convinced you can, but I mean, okay, so I'll just read off from Animals Australia. So, a wide variety of animal species are used to make leather, most notably cattle, but also pigs, goats, sheep, crocodiles, snakes, stingrays, seals, emus, deer, fish, kangaroos, horses, cats, and dogs. Even baby animals don't escape the leather industry, with the skins of calves, kids, and lambs considered particularly valuable because of their softness. Hundreds of thousands of day-old bobby calves born in the dairy industry are slaughtered every year in Australia, with their skins then used to make boots, bags, and other products for the fashion industry. Even unborn calves called silks, whose pregnant mothers are killed in the slaughterhouses, may be skinned. The skin from these premature animals is particularly sought after for its delicateness.
Yeah,
just a byproduct.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you go.
I was just gonna say, my understanding is that the dairy industry is pretty bad, and everything that I said about cows also forgot to say doesn't apply to dairy cows. And I think that dairy cows, in many cases of a certain sex, are like removed and killed or something when they're born? I don't really know much about
Probably the boys would be the
Yeah,
best one.
bulls don't give milk, so yeah, that's the thing with mammals.
Can they make leather out of older animals like mutton or cows, but rather instead of using young animals? Because I know it's going to be tougher and
Oh
tougher
yeah,
on
they
tanneries,
totally
but
can.
they could
They
just
do. They do. Yeah, most.
Why not blue whales? Why not blue whales? Because those are the largest animals that ever existed. So like if we want to eat meat and have leather, and we want to
That first verse, and this is just what I really believe, because the elect.
This guy's name, you can't exist. I could just imagine that's how it's going. So anyway, I guess that's my thought on it. Philip, let me know if you're not able to get up. I am sending you invites, unless you just don't want to talk to us. Otherwise, leave and come back. But yeah, Philip, also, if you have an answer for that, if you guys are talking about it in chat. Yeah, the son or father of Neri. But yeah, Chris, what were you saying right before that fun question? By the way, what got you so riled up about that? Is it just like when you like you try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and then when they show that yes they do have an agenda, you're just like let down in humanity, and you're like, I knew it, you son of the devil! Ah!
Well, no, it was just he was trying to be a sea lion, and like, I'm just here for a casual, like, I just have a question. When he didn't really have a question.
But we all knew that, right?
That.
Well, but we all
he
knew
was
that,
lying
right?
about it. Yeah, I mean, it was just like he got caught in a lie, and then he got mad that I called him a liar, and I'm like, look, dude, you came in here pretending that you just had a question about a genealogy, when really what you were doing is you went to some, apologetics website for Orthodox Jews, and you found this particular Bible difficulty, and when we can't answer something that obscure in literally 1 minute, then, oh, you guys got nothing, you can't provide me with an answer. Like, dude, just go away.
Well, yeah, I mean, come back tomorrow. I'm sure Chris is going to research it. I probably won't.
Yeah, I just did, actually. I have the answer now. It just, it took me a minute to find it.
I mean, that's pretty good, right? Like, if you ask this in, a formal debate, and someone gets away from their ego, and they're like, okay, that's a fair point. I don't have the answer. Let's reconvene next week, or let's reconvene 2 Tuesdays from now, and, I'll have a response. And, Chris does it in, 3.5 minutes, maybe? That's pretty good.
Yeah, so I'll send you the link. And so this comes up in debates with Orthodox rabbis, and there are 2 options to solve this. And so Shetil was actually a very common name. So option 1 is Shetil was an extremely common name, like Bob. And so it could be any kind of Shetil. And so find me where it's different Shetil. And it's like, well, find me where if it's a different Bob. Like, shut up. That's a stupid way to argue that. Second is that it could be a much more complicated answer, and that's that there's the case of Levirate marriage in 1 Chronicles 3:17 through 19 states that Jeconiah was the father of Shetil and Pedaiah. But then the text says that Pedaiah's son was also called Zerubbabel. But other passages state that Shetil was the father of Zerubbabel. This is Ezra 3:2, Nehemiah 12:1, Haggai 1:1, shows that this could have been the case of a Levirate marriage. See Genesis 38, 8 through 9, Deuteronomy 25, 5 through 10. A widow of the childless man could marry his brother. When the woman gave birth, he would carry on his deceased father's name. This was the case. So many names could go on, even if he died prematurely. Michael Brown writes, in the case of Zerubbabel, it would appear that his biological father was Pedaiah, the younger brother of Shetil, who died childless. And then Pedaiah then married the widow of Shetil in accordance with the laws of Levirate marriage, and his firstborn son Zerubbabel was counted as the son of his deceased brother Shetil to build up his family line. So, yeah. I mean, so, Luke 3:27, who is Shetil's father, Jeconiah or Neri? Come on. So there are answers for all of this that are perfectly reasonable. but they don't want reasonable answers.
Well, yeah. So Atheist Notions in chat, who was very disheartened by us for kicking him down, which wasn't for asking questions, by the way. We entertain all kinds of amazingly absurd questions, so that's fine. But I kicked him down because things were getting super heated, and Chris was trying to make his point, and it just got in a shouting match. So if I have to pick someone to kick down, it'll probably be the guy that incurred the wrath of Chris slightly before Chris himself. Anyways, that's why. But I mean, you can't say he didn't answer, right? He gave great answers, I thought. I mean, who knows? Ultimately, we shouldn't just look for a compelling answer, because compelling answers can be wrong. So we should look for the accurate answer, and right. So like, is it reasonable? Is it convincing? Is it compelling? And then, is it accurate? Well, I mean, I think you laid out a compelling case, but as far as the accuracy, people have been debating, answers for all kinds of questions. They will never know which one is completely true. But even Chris laid out, right? Like, one can't be true, or one has to be false if the other one is true. There's a couple different options. So it could be none of those options are true, but it's reasonable to think, well, surely one of these options is true. It makes sense. And then it's like, well, the people that spent time in putting these genealogies, do we not think this was scrutinized as if we don't already know it has been for thousands and thousands of years? So like, if there was like oops, crap, we need an editing change, I don't know, 900 years ago or 1900 years ago, don't you think the people would have been like, yeah, let's scribble that in real fast and make sure all of our, dots are dotted and, lines crossed, T's crossed, and I's dotted. Surely that would have happened. It doesn't mean good. It would have been conspiracy for the ages, but it still would have happened.
Well, but the other thing, too, is like the Apostle Paul read Luke because he quotes. You think that a Pharisee of Pharisees, like the most Jewish was ever Jewish, all the apostles, would have missed something in a genealogy when genealogies are deeply important? Would he have been just like, I guess it's Neri, I don't know, skip over that part? Like, are you serious? Like, no, this is not it's just silly.
Chris, you're starting to chop up a little bit. Right? Do you have bad reception, or are you on your spatial audio or whatever?
No, sorry, I just drove through a bad spot on I-4. Right near downtown, there's like very few cell towers in Orlando. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's like, would we think that the Apostle Paul, who was as Jewish can get, who we know read Luke because he quotes Luke later on in 2 Timothy, would have just glossed over son of Neri and been like, oh yeah, totally, that was Jeconiah. Why is that wrong? I guess we just don't know. Like he would have known. Like he would have. Genealogies were deeply important to people like the Pharisees, and to come out here swinging and saying like, the New Testament is totally wrong because they got one part of this genealogy incorrect, and you silly Gentiles don't know anything about genealogies, therefore you are stupid.
Which they didn't get one part of the genealogy incorrect, we would say.
Right, and the fact that it's left in there, and the fact that it is like something that people want to pounce on, especially like Jews, then that leads more to its credence, because there must be a good explanation as to why it's there and not just a gloss, or not just a scribal gloss or a problem, that it's actually accurate. And that, what he's doing is basically trying to use, like you said, he's trying to ignore all of the other evidence in the New Testament and go to a single word and then say that the entire New Testament is suspect. That's insane. I mean, that's like atheists that go to 2 Chronicles and want to start talking about the numbers that are used there when they don't understand how Jewish numbering systems work. And have problems with that. It's like, seriously? Like, glass houses, dude.
Well, I mean, it's just, there's so, like short-circuiting over here. Like, it's like, when Jesus says, he answers disciples, they're like, why don't you just tell people plainly? He's like, I speak in parables because, it's God's good pleasure, and some people aren't supposed to admit this and aren't supposed to understand what I mean by this. And that's why. It's like, if you are an opponent of Christianity, then it would be nice if you've read the Bible. For their sake, not ours. It makes our work easy. It's like, read the Bible. It's talking about you. But it would just be nice if they read the Bible and understood it enough to know, probably if you're opposing the Bible and Christianity, you should not do the very things it says people like you will do. And you should not be the very people it says people like you are. It's just like so on the nose. It's to someone that I don't know, someone that can just read. It's like this is you all day long. Like if you want to attack Christianity as a Christian, I can help you. I can point you in the right direction. Like I can give you decent ammunition. I mean, it's not going to hold up, but I can at least like set you on the right direction where you're not going to criticize Christianity and just play right into exactly what the Bible says you're doing. So, you know, it's like they get so bogged down in these endless genealogies and worthless discussions. That is exactly what the Pharisees did, which is why they missed Jesus. And, you know, it's like, look, repent and believe the gospel. That's it. Jesus did this. Eyewitnesses saw it. You know, there's a spiritual reality. Deal with that. And it's like, no. As if, like, you know, if a comma's missing, Jesus doesn't exist all the time while he's existing. We're like, bro, look up. Here I am. Look up. Get your nose out of the book. Look up. And they're just like, nope. So, like, hearing, they don't hear. Seeing, they don't perceive. And I think a lot of times, like, you know, people that consider themselves good moral atheists without belief in a God or gods, that legitimately, like, seem to fit that description, not someone that says that and then, like, secretly hates God for killing their goldfish. But I think a lot of times they can just read the Bible and like, dude, I don't know why you have such a problem. Like, look, this is what the Bible says. This is what you're doing. Like, I'm not a Christian. I don't think God exists. These Christians are crazy. But you're doing this very thing. Like, so I think a lot of times, like a lack of religious indoctrination, as if I'm some truth, is a good thing, right? So then when they read the Bible or are confronted with some sort of religious text, they really have sort of a more open mind going into it than someone that secretly is harboring like ill will and all kinds of bad arguments against it. I'm done preaching. That's just baffling to me. It is baffling. It would be like me saying I'm an atheist because God made me mad. And then atheists being like, that's not what an atheist is. You can't believe in a God. You have to believe a God doesn't exist, or you have to lack a belief in a God. I'm like, I do. I'm an atheist, but I hate God. Ah! It's just like that over and over and over, except with a religious bent.
Yeah, hey, I got to go in like 2 minutes, but I think Russ had a question and then Cash, right?
Yeah, real quick, are you guys futurists, preterists? Like, as far as your eschatology goes, what are you?
Not really preterist. Maybe someone could make a case that I'd be like tiptoeing the water of some sort of preterist, but no. You're partial preterist, right, Chris?
Yeah, I'm not partial. Well, I'm partial preterist, but I'm also premillennial dispensational, pre-trib rapture.
Perfect. I got a question for you then.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got 2 minutes, dude. You crook.
Oh, man, well, I'll ask the question and maybe we can get back with each other later. But anyway, my question would be on Matthew 24, where they ask him, when shall these things be, referring to the destruction of the temple with one stone not being left upon another. My question is, where is address that?
Is he in the Matrix?
Yes. No.
He literally
Russ.
got to his question, and then he went to the Matrix.
Your Matrix. Are you there, Russ? Try again. Try one more time. We seem to have lost Russ.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, we hear you.
Yes.
Okay. When they ask the question, when shall these things be, in Matthew 24, at what point in the Olivet Discourse did Jesus answer that question about the destruction of the temple?
He said, "This generation shall not pass." So it was in 70 AD that the temple was destroyed. That's why I'm a partial preterist. Yeah.
So you believe Matthew 24 has been fulfilled then?
Not all of it, but some of it, yeah. So some of it has been fulfilled, others have not. These prophecies don't go in order of event. They go in order of whatever Jesus is talking about. And so in the Olivet Discourse, he lays out the destruction of Jerusalem, which clearly happened in 70 AD.
So would you say that the abomination of desolation was a past event?
No. I would say that the abomination of desolation that he's speaking of in Matthew 24 does not have to do with 70 AD. I believe that has to do with the future Antichrist, and that is going to be in a future temple.
So the answer would be that it's not. Oh, Jesus's answers, the way they're laid out in Matthew 24, are not chronological.
Correct. He's not laying out a chronological order of eschatology. He's simply giving, like, topical ideas of what's happening in future events. And there's a lot of Reformed theologians that would agree with me on that, too.
What's that?
So there's a lot of Reformed theologians that are partial preterists that would agree with me on that, too. That certain things were fulfilled in 70 AD and other things are going to be future fulfilled. Like Voss would be a good example of that.
In verse 34, when he says, "This generation shall not pass, till all these things be fulfilled," what are all these things that he's referring to?
All the stuff that happened in 70 AD.
Okay. But okay. All right, that's where I was kind of leaning towards. It wasn't chronological, but I wanted to get y'all's take on it. I'm trying to just develop some strong answers for people like William Bell and the like.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, for the record, do you see how that went? Like, it's not an easy question. I mean, it's not like it's not like, okay, we only want easy questions, and by we I mean Chris. So I mean, that was a fairly complex question, I think, but there's a total difference in the way it was presented. You can just like tell, right? Like the difference it was presented by someone that has a question and they would like an answer, like they just want to hear what you have to say, versus the give me an answer, Christian. Which, regardless, I mean, even if someone comes with that attitude, like I'm happy to answer, I'm happy to oblige, as long as they can be somewhat civil. Outright lying, I guess some people wouldn't consider civil, but as long as they can do it nicely, I'm still happy to entertain it. But there is a difference, right? So I mean, I guess I can understand how some could be a little grumpy with someone they discern to be like that, versus the question we just got asked, which was not super easy. There was some explanation, there was some thought that went into it. Just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have lost my temper with the dude, but like. Yeah, I have way less patience than you, Nate, and one of the reasons I hang out with you is to learn more patience. Because you have a lot of good patience, man. Like, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on, and you're just like, well, let me give you that answer, and it's like, oh, you didn't really want that answer? That's not surprising, Whereas I'm like, you're a liar. Why would you come in here swinging like that, as opposed to you're much more gracious and better.
Well, I think it's like having my cake and eat it too. I'm going to get fat again. That seems to be, I look for ways to have both. And sometimes I just can't. Like if they're like, hey, isn't Jesus cool? But my God is also cool. I'm like, okay, this is a case we cannot have our cake and eat it too. No, you will burn in the fiery pit of hell. I'm sorry. Repent and believe the gospel. But a lot more than you would think, you can have your cake and eat it too. So if you perceive someone, to be like that, and you're like, all right, troll, don't pay the troll. Where did I hear that? Don't pay the troll toll. It's Always Sunny. That's where. So it's like if I know someone is just trolling or has a less than noble agenda, not as pure as the driven snow, I'm like, okay, so let me just answer this guy. Let me just deal with him. And then unless the audience also shares this guy's hidden agenda or not so hidden agenda, or unless they just don't care at all, they're going to see for themselves in 5 minutes what this guy is doing and be like, wow, bro, that's sketchy. Maybe you should listen to more of what these Christians have to say, because I don't want to be slimy like you. That's gross. That's icky. I need to shower. Just in these people's attentions, right? It's like a political thing almost. It's like why people don't like politicians, because they try to just wordplay and game every conversation, and people don't like that. They hate that. So anyways, I feel like that's kind of a way of exposing them without having to be like, I am exposing you. They're going to do it to themselves. Anyway, that's my hope. That's my thought.
That's a good thought, man. Well, anyway, I got to go see my client. Thanks for that. I'm calmed down now, so I'm going to go take care of these.
Oosfraba. Oosfraba. Isn't that the Eskimo thing? to like calm down their little children. All right, Cash, what's up, Cash? You've been waiting for a bit. What's on your mind? Are you speaking?
Hey, Nate.
Cash, how are you?
Well, where are you from?
United States.
Okay. Well, how do you think Christianity came into the U.S.?
Through people who were Christians, who brought it to the U.S.
How did they bring it? What's your idea?
I mean, going from common history, people from England who were Christians, who had got it by other people who brought it to them, but they fled their country for religious freedom because they were being persecuted. And it was between Catholics and Protestants, and whatever bent the king had at the time is what everyone was. So people didn't like that surprise, and because of that, they came here and they brought the religion with them, which is not unlike the Great Commission where Jesus says, "Go into all the world, make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit."
Is it not the same?
What?
No, you just said some Bible verses, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you quote that?
As a side note, to say that what happened, coincidentally, is exactly what Jesus says needs to happen. So people traveled the world, they brought the message of the gospel with them.
Oh, well,
I'm just pointing out that it's also in sync with what the Bible says.
Okay. Well, it would be of some interest for you to know that it is not everything whole peaceful and everything, So the whole native civilization and the native belief system was destroyed when the colonizers, came from Spain. So basically, it is Columbus who came.
Okay, so now we're shifting to atrocities committed against indigenous people. So I assume that the first question is answered, correct? And now we can shift to atrocities committed against indigenous people?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So my point is that it did not spread entirely peacefully or something. So that's my point, basically. That's my core point.
Well, no one said anything about peace. It should be peaceful, but regardless that people do terrible things, even what their own government, religion, God, spouse, family, even if they all say don't do it that way, people still can do evil things. So sure, Christianity did not always spread peacefully. Nothing 100% spread peacefully. I would be curious if anything spread 100% peacefully. And there was a time where any political system, religion, philosophy, non-religious philosophy spread completely peaceably without any coercion whatsoever. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be that way. Christianity should certainly be peaceful. Doesn't mean it's always been that way, but that means the followers, the practitioners, are going against their own religion. Just like some other non-religious secular philosophy that should be spread peacefully. It doesn't mean all the practitioners always did it the way their peaceful non-religious philosophy says. People can go against their own ideals. They can go against their own principles. They shouldn't, but they can.
Can I just reiterate that? So what Nate is simply saying is that if you look at the Bible doesn't give instructions to do that. It's different than what the actual people do, or people that call themselves Christian do. So you should be judging the people and the societies.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, my great-grandmother, 100% Cherokee Indian, her whole life, whole tribe, whole family, and also God-fearing Christian Jesus follower. So, somehow she recognized all the faults and wrongs of people and recognized that that is not going to keep her from the Jesus she follows. Also, a side note, you can disregard my 100% Native American grandmother if you like. It was just extra information. Do you have a response, Cash?
My total point is that most of the ways in which Christianity spread through America was mostly through forceful conversion. So America became sorry.
I have to disagree. You can say there was some atrocities done. You can say there was evil and coercion done, just like I think we can say about pretty much anything on earth. But to say it was mostly this, no. It was mostly, people fleeing for religious persecution who were already Christians. They didn't need to be compelled. They were. So they got here, and, through all the other settlers, Germanic, all these other people. So to say there was some evil done, I would agree. History would agree. To say it was mostly through coercion, then no, I will not agree, and I don't believe history will agree with you either. Just want to push back on that one.
I think you would have known about the papal bull that was put out in 1492. So that itself, puts the point of the mindset at that point of time. It was basically go and conquer the lands wherever Christianity has not been spread over there. For example, Columbus's expedition basically to America, and when he landed over there, when the Columbus party landed over there, it is basically, taking those people as slaves and conversions. So that's how the colonization itself started over there in America. So it started over with that mindset and with that in that way only. So basically, yeah.
Can I answer to that?
Christians who converted basically to Christianity was basically done by force. The first Christians in America, because the first colonizer, Columbus himself, was a barbarian.
So what you're saying is that Christopher Columbus did it the way you're saying. What you're saying is that it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Okay, good. So we all agree here. Everyone is in agreement. If they did it that way, they're wrong. The question is, does the Bible say do it that way? And that answer would be no.
I do agree with you.
Okay, so next question.
Well, yeah, and I would also, again, I can't challenge this enough. By the way, when you say papal anything, yeah, sure, they say they're Christians, they say they follow the same God. I don't care. I think there is a lot of faults, and I am in no way beholden or affiliated with papal anything. So, Nate and papal should never be used in the same sentence. It just does not apply. Just to say. But, even if someone said, so you could try to, read in and assume, right? Even if he said, which I'm not agreeing to this, but even if we did stipulate the worst case scenario, which is hey, on pain of death, go convert, all these people you're going to find by the sword. That doesn't automatically mean that's what happened. So, for example, if, just imagine the, most evil dictator in the world, typically, they usually try to use, they try to make compelling arguments. They try to be your friend. They try to present you with a good argument that you willingly agree to. So, even if they have orders to do this, by the sword, which is totally wrong, totally anti-biblical, anti-Christian, but even if that's their goal and that's what they wanted to do, chances are they didn't get off the boat and start swinging swords. They're hey, let us tell you about our God. Hey, here's some food. Hey, let's live together. Learn our ways. Learn about our God. Just saying. If we're going to present the picture that, Columbus was a barbarian who got off the boat swinging swords, then we also have to present a counter hypothetical that's just as likely. So I don't care, I don't believe there's total truth to either of those. I think it's somewhere in the middle where the truth usually lies. I just want to be clear on that, though. By the way, I'm not beholden to Columbus for anything either. I really don't care. My only interest is historical accuracy.
Well, Nate, so for example, when we take, Hitler's Holocaust in Germany, so we can't say that, there's a middle ground over there. We can't take Hitler was just putting everyone in gas chambers. But we also have to take so many other good characters of him. There are, in fact, recorded that he had some good, good heart. He was not just a stone-hearted person, So we can't say, oh, we had to find a middle person. Sorry?
I just want to be clear. Did I hear you said you appreciated Hitler's artwork? Is that what I heard?
Well, I did not appreciate.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly.
I just said that you can't take some good things or good thoughts which he had, which has been recorded, and take him up and put it this way: oh, he was a good man. We have to find a middle ground. We have to come to a middle ground rather than denying the fact. Saying that he was not a complete butcherer, but we had to find a middle ground, saying that oh, he had some good qualities too. So we can't do that, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't. That's not the case I was making. But by the way, will someone? Well, yeah, that's not the point I was making. But I mean, you can't. It sounded like you were going too far again. So, to the person who is not just completely, shut down about, who can participate in conversations, then you can't say that, Hitler is just wrong. Go with me. This is going to end up on YouTube. Follow me to the end of the sentence. You can't say, every single thing Hitler ever did in his entire life was wrong. I'm sure there was a point where somebody asked Hitler what time it was. He looked at his watch, and he gave them a correct answer, right? So, yes, evil for the ages. Totally agree with what you said. But just to set the stage for being able to dialogue, if someone's like, no, he never did one single good, correct, accurate thing in his entire life, I mean, as much as we all can't stand Hitler, he's like, one of the great evils of our time. By the way, so much so that the first person to invoke Hitler in a conversation typically is assumed to have automatically lost that argument because they're grasping at straws, which, by the way, you did, just for the record. But to say that nothing good ever came from him, he probably answered right on some math homework, or he probably got an A in school. So to someone that could not even admit something like that, like he was correct or did something accurate in his life, you just can't have a conversation with that person because they're letting their emotion for the evil this guy did, which we all agree with he's evil, but they're letting that cloud their judgment so much that they can't give one thing yes, he probably got an A on some homework at some point in his life. I have no idea if that's true or not. I'm just assuming he can't be all F, all incorrect, all everything, right? Do you get what I'm saying?
Sure, I did get your point, but
this is going straight to YouTube. That's the point, right? So if you find someone that's like, okay, yes, I agree that he was right about some stuff. Again, mundane as you want to make it. I agree that he was driving a car and said, oh, this is out of gas. This car must have gas or it's going to stop working, right? That's the level I'm reducing this to. So if someone's like, no, he saw an empty tank and is like, no, it'll keep running forever because he's Hitler and he's evil. I can't talk to that person because they're just so warped that they're not in reality.
Oh, sure. But you can't just take some 2-3 good qualities which he had and just whitewash whatever.
Yeah, no one's doing that.
He had done it.
Yeah, no one's doing that.
So in general history, he was a butcher, which is a recorded fact. And I'm not saying, oh, not even one single thing he did was good. I'm not saying that. I do agree with you. So I think we must agree that it was butchery that spread Christianity in the Americas in the beginning. The whole native system was destroyed. Well, it's recorded history.
No, that's like saying that Christianity, people who use Christianity, is what brought slavery and what allowed slavery to happen, and then not taking the other side of the argument, the historical argument, which is it was Christians and Christianity that said, no, you people are going against your own religion. Read the Bible. There is no male, no female, no slave, no free, no Jew, no Gentile. We are all one in Christ. So you could say Christianity was used to justify slavery, but then that would be dishonest if you stopped there and said, nope, Christianity justified slavery, that's it. But you never took the other side, which is Christianity was also used to justify ending slavery and eradicating slavery.
Oh, for your understanding,
You knew that, right?
I never said that. Christianity was it is fully spread through hate and violence and the sword. I never said that, and I never said that Christianity was the whole reason of slavery. But what I'm saying is, it mostly spread through slavery and colonization and forceful conversions. For example, in the North America, as I mentioned, and in Africa, and in Australia, for example, all these places, the whole native belief systems were destroyed. If you read the history of Australia and the native Aboriginals, all the native belief systems were destroyed through colonizations and
you can also chalk that up to technology and civilization as a whole. Like, look how many. Like, if we want to compare evil for evil, you have to take take the populace, take the powerhouse, because that's going to get more recognition than like a Inuit group or people who are in a small tribe. Not that like, I'm sure the Aztecs would have eradicated half the world if they would have had the power and the means to spread and grow, and that was their ambition, to go colonize and take the head-kicking soccer ball to the nations. It just so happened they didn't have the power and means and populace to do that. Otherwise, they may have done that, and head-kicking soccer may be a thing. So you only have the certain people who have the population and the power to do these things, and if you want to compare those groups of people who have the means and the will to travel, to take their culture, to civilize untamed lands, as it were, then Christianity doesn't hold a candle. It's like the most tame religion ever. Like, if you want to chalk up to the amount of people specifically murdered in the name of atheism, right? Not saying, hey, I'm an evil dictator who just doesn't happen to believe in a God. No. We're talking about, like, Stalin, Chairman Mao, like Pol Pot, like people who were ardent anti-theist, militant anti-theist, and said, effectively, we are your God. The state is your God. Like, not just because they happen to be communists and evil and also happen to not believe in a God. It's because they specifically were so anti-everything but communism. They're like, no, you will bow to the state, we will be your God, or you will die. You cannot have another God. If you want to look at that, there's nothing that holds a candle close. Something that would hold a candle close would be some other religions, and it doesn't excuse what was done in Christianity. But if we're comparing evil apple to evil apple, Christianity is like the least of anyone's problem. And then the only thing less than Christianity, just because it wasn't, I guess, as popular or had many or have as many adherents, would be something like these tribes you're talking about, like maybe whatever culture you were raised in, or maybe like a small Buddhist temple or monastery, or Hindus who largely keep to themselves. If they had the means and they wanted to go, into the rest of the world, then perhaps they would have visited some of their stuff on people, and they would say, look at all the evil done in Hinduism, while you have Hindus saying, no, it's not supposed to be that way. These are people acting on their own, for example. But we'll never know because they just don't have the means and population. I mean, maybe at some point in the future we'll be looking back and say, wow, wish they never got the means and populace to do that. But until or unless that happens, we'll never know. But yeah, so evil.
May I contribute one thing real quick to what you just said, Nate?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd also like to point out that Christianity, even though people have done evil things in the name of Christ and forced conversions and all that, Christianity is still spreading today in the absence of those things. And we also would do good to recognize the fact that there are missionaries who go in 100% total peace to countries all the time, every year, every day, and converting entire clans of people, entire tribes of people, even today, with no force at all. So I don't think that's the only reason Christianity spread was through force, because that's not even true today. In right before our eyes, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to add that.
Well, you know what? That's a good point, Russ. And look at the other side of this coin, right? As if Christians are the only people that can do something bad once in a while. But look at the other side of that coin, which is, look where Christianity is growing the fastest in the entire world, and it's communist China. Not free China, communist China, where it's like forbidden to be a Christian, and everyone that does is persecuted unbelievably. Yet, that's where it's growing the fastest. Interesting. One should consider that. Lou, did you want to say something too? I thought I heard you pipe in. Cash, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, when you say that, Hindus didn't have the means to do the colonization and everything. Well, I'm sure you didn't read some history about the Indian kingdoms and everything. Well, they were one of the largest kingdoms. The Indian kingdoms were one of the largest and the most powerful. For that matter, even when Alexander came into India, he couldn't even defeat one tribe, which was in the borders of India. He couldn't even defeat one tribe properly, So that's the size of the Indian kingdoms, for that matter. And when Rus says that Christianity is not spreading through force, and it is not spreading through only force, as I claim. Well, I do not claim that it spread only through force. And even today, why it's spreading so fast is because, for example, in India, there is a great use of money for the spread of Christianity over here. People are being given money and asked to convert. For example, in the northeastern part of India, which are mostly tribal populations, people are being given money. And in southern part of India, just around 300 kilometers away from my place, people are given so much money for conversions. So it's not just the word of God, that's the soul-piercing sword that is being used to convert. I would disagree
sure.
with
Brothers. Yeah, I also, I didn't say only. Yeah, we'll get to you in just a second, Azar. Hang on one second. I wanted to say one more thing. When I said power, I didn't mean like power, like, just military might. I also talked about the will, right? Like, if they wanted to take that might and like, they had the will to, like, travel and, share their kingdom with the world or take over other countries, that's what I meant, not just like a powerful nation. But, perhaps where other places have, other religions and philosophies have gone out in the world, they stay in their own land, in their own geography, but they also have the caste system. So instead of imposing their will on other people not like them, they just impose their beliefs on people like them. And that's why we have people, in the caste system who absolutely hate it and have a terrible quality of life. So, there is, no one gets out of this without, no one gets out of this shiny and pure without having some serious issues, right? So, we can say,
one point of the
well, let me finish real quick. Hey, hold on. We're going to call on you, like I said, in just a second. I'm going to finish what I'm going to finish what I'm saying. And that is, so the one thing that rings true is what the Bible says, that all of humanity is fallen and needs one Savior, that is Jesus. So the fact that we're talking about all these imperfections and all these humans that do humanly things, that points that, yeah, we can't save ourselves. We all are flawed. Cash, you had a final thought, and then it was there. Cash, give us a final thought.
Oh, well, when you say that they didn't, go to other lands and, form their kingdoms over there, again, I think you have to go back and refer to history. So basically, the Indian kingdoms influenced most of the East Asian, like Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all these parts. And in the West, when you go, it had influence until Afghanistan and I think one or two countries beyond that in the West, and also it had influence in the Saudi part. So basically, you can't say that they didn't have influence all over the place. And for that matter, Indian influence was also present in China. Indian influence of Buddhism culturally. So the Indian colonizers, they didn't go on to with the idea that they have to be preached and they have to be given the word of God. these barbaric practitioners, these these people who go to hellfire, they should be given the word of God. This was not their mindset.
Okay,
So it was
great, fine. You
basically
can,
assimilation of culture.
okay, noted. Yeah, you can have that. You can have that Cambodia and Indonesia. You can have that. That's fine. My point was, they have their own fault, which would be the caste system. And, most of those geographies you mentioned are Muslim now anyway. So I'll let Hinduism and Islam, deal with that issue. But Uzair, what's up, Uzair?
Yes, actually, I wanted to reply Vikash. He was mentioning that you had influence, not colonies, because in your in your adjacent west, there was Sassanid Empire of Iran, and in your east there was China. Okay, you can say that, but I think you forgot
China in the
mentioning
east.
about Shuddhi and. Okay, I was just saying that you said that you had influence, but you did not try to convert those people. But if we talk about recent years, what about the Shuddhi and Sangatam? You can say that. What about these? What can I say? What about these movements?
What is that? Shuddhi and Sangatam. What is that?
I think
I haven't heard
you
of that.
don't know that. Search it out.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Sure, I'll
You can
search.
all search that.
Sure, I'll. And Nate, when you spoke of the caste system, I can give you an explanation. Maybe it will take another 5 minutes, but we can move on to another conversation or whatever if you want to. Or maybe if you want the caste explanation, I can give it.
Well, yeah, I don't think I do because I've heard enough and I've researched enough. Like when you got to mute when you're not speaking. That's a lot of feedback. But yeah, as far as the caste system, we've heard persecuted Christians from India who live there currently, who come in here. The internet now.
MSP, so he agrees that it's reasonable.
Well, I don't agree.
Okay, what's
well, I don't remember what your premises were.
Sure. If morals are stance dependent, and then my stances are what determine permissibility. My stance is eating meat, therefore it is permissible.
Yeah, for you. It's permissible for you, but it might not be.
So I'm reasonable in my actions then, is that correct?
What? Are you being inconsistent? Are you being reasonable? I don't think you're being inconsistent.
Well, it's reason just meaning following beliefs that I have.
Oh, yeah, you're being reasonable if you follow, like if you believe that like killing animals is morally permissible and, therefore you kill animals, then yeah, you're being reasonable.
I mean,
according to you. But again, according to me, you're not being reasonable. But that's just because I think reasonable here is a normative notion, and I believe that, morality is subjective.
Yeah, I mean, you're just committing to we have different beliefs, therefore it's false or something, but that's not going to be very compelling now, is it? This is why I said you got to go more realism if you're going to take this view.
No, I don't need to do that at all.
Well, you're going to be committed to things you're never going to be able to convince those people.
Yeah, but I said before, someone who doesn't care about morals you're not going to convince them either.
Somebody who doesn't care.
I want to speak to Brando before I go to sleep because he seemed like he was seemingly. Oh wait, AJ wanted to go. AJ said, "Billy, can I go, please?" I don't know what the fuck this Jim Cummins is saying. Billy making emotional cases against killing is not strong positioning. I don't think I've made any emotional case whatsoever, so I don't know what that is about. But anyway, Brando. Oh, sorry, AJ wanted to go.
Right. Yeah, Brando, you go ahead, please. Billy, I think you're tired.
The only thing I was saying is I'm not as verbally adept as Albedo, I guess. But I guess that's kind of what I was trying to say. like I'm all for eating meat. I don't necessarily like where the meat industry has gotten. I think there needs to be some serious changes. I think environmental concerns are a thing, but like
So it's morally acceptable to kill animals for consumption? Human consumption?
I would say so.
Okay, and so is it because the morals, like what about your morality says that's okay? Is it because animals are beneficial to humans? They're different species, or like
I
how
am
can
I am a speciesist.
because killing a human for consumption and cannibalism is completely out of some moral,
Well, it would be out of my personal moral framework, but I also am not a moral realist. Like I don't think morality is a real thing, really. But I guess for me, yeah, I don't think you should kill. How did you put it? Primates, dolphins, whales. I think a lot of times culture also kind of dictates how people look at things. So I would personally be going against like pets, like dogs and stuff like that. But I also could find it like morally permissible for certain other countries who have different, I guess you could say, viewpoints on it to do so.
So if morality is just subjective, I guess like it could be any answer. But do you feel that consuming animals and also utilizing their parts and their byproducts and stuff is for the benefit of the human race? But how do you feel about like domesticating animals? Is that beneficial for the human race as well? Is it moral to animals to keep them against the wild?
I guess it would depend on the animal and the reason you're domesticating it.
Okay, so it's totally based on the species.
It's based on the species and the reason the reason you're domesticating it. Some of the reasons we domesticate animals are actually to encourage more growth and to bring them back.
Yeah, and to help us, like emotionally or even physically, for disabled folks.
I'm sorry. Are we discussing with this? Are we just discussing like what this guy Brando is just personally fine with, like, or what are we discussing?
Just the morality of utilizing animals for human benefit so far. We started with consumption of eating, so comparing that to veganism. But, someone brought
We're discussing like what this guy personally is fine with or something like that, right?
Well, I think Brando just says like he's okay morally with eating animals, but is there anyone here that's like against it? I think it's morally like not correct to consume animals.
Well, I think Billy was on.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I think it's morally wrong. Purely because it's not necessary, and not necessary. Then you're causing unnecessary. You're causing unnecessary suffering.
I have an argument, Adi, if you want to hear it, about like why it's actually bad to not eat meat.
Okay.
In some cases.
In some cases, you mean the cases where you die if you don't eat meat?
No. I mean like a case where there's like these cows and they are assholes. No. Where they're animal, where they're cows and they live a life where they get to graze and so on. I think it's a bad not by the meat.
Well, if the cows are alive, you have to kill them and eat them.
No, I'm just talking about you live in a place where cows are generally like let out and they graze and they generally live like happy lives. And then the action that I'm saying is bad not to do is going to a store and just buying meat.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. I can't stand this bullshit people do. We are not peasants in like some backward country. We have grocery stores. That's where we get our fucking meat, people. Stop being dishonest.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd side with Heidi on that one.
This is a bullshit edge case thing. It's like, oh well, if we were all back in the day.
I would not from a farm still.
We're not. No, I'm talking. Look, I'm saying if you just live in a place where, and this is not like an edge case, there's a lot of places in Europe that are like this, where like most of the meat they get is from like grazing cows. I'm saying for those people, it's morally bad to not go to the store and buy meat.
What?
I'm saying
bad to not go to buy meat from the store?
yes.
Morally bad to not go? I don't
How
get
does that follow?
like double negative. More.
He's talking because the find of the meat industry
saying the
business, or the families can suffer if you
No.
don't support
No.
the industry.
I think like a reasonable definition of the good is net utilitarianism. So it's going to be the total amount of happiness but minus the total amount of suffering. Okay? So that's what I mean by good. And these cows, I think, are net, unless you disagree, and we can talk about this, but it seems like those cows that are like generally happy, they live for 4 years grazing, and then one day they're shot and then killed, and then like, consumed for meat. They are net utility producers, as in they are, they experience more like happiness in life than suffering.
So should
So
we
then-
just do that to humans too? Let them have a happy life till they're like 50 and then shoot them in the head? Would that be
If the choice is between those humans not existing at all,
Yeah.
or existing to live like really happy lives for like until 50 and then killed, if the choice is between those two and there's like no other externalities, for example, like it's gonna fuck up our like political system, it's gonna like do a slippery slope for other like worse things, then yeah, I think it's better to have them instead of just not having them exist at all. Don't you think so?
No.
Okay, so let's just try to take it from the start. So do you think they are net utility producers?
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure I buy your claim that there are cows in Europe living happy fucking lives. I'm pretty sure there's factory farms in Europe. Now, if you want to just say, get rid of all factory farms and the only cows we're allowed to eat are like completely freely grazing and then completely painlessly killed. That's fine. I might agree with that, but that's not actually where the reality we live in. And so if you want to just change us to that reality, the only way to actually do that is to have a majority of people refusing to condone by their money factory farms.
Well, one second, maybe. My argument is
it's still more moral to be vegan to get to the kind of world you're proposing.
Well, one second. My argument is just saying, if you find yourself in a world like this, then it's bad to not buy meat.
Great.
So we can disagree. I think. Just 1 second.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so you agree that like if we lived in a world where there are these cows that like graze freely, then it's bad to not buy meat. Like you agree with that?
I would be agnostic on that because I'm not sure it would still be better for them not to be born at all. However, I think it's a ridiculous argument because we don't live in that world. So the question is, and the only way to get to that world is for literally everyone here and most people, certainly in the industrialized world where you have options, to go vegan. So it would still be the morally permissible thing to do, the morally superior thing to do, would be to go vegan until such time as your world could come into existence.
I could take you to 100 farms around where I live in Wisconsin, but they're not factory farms. I only know of one within like 150 miles.
I think Heidi's referring to
Finnish?
dairy farms, where their factory farms are huge in dairy farms. But
Aren't they finished with corn?
Yeah, they're going to be finished with
meat
corn.
that's 100% grass-fed.
Yeah,
very small portion of the meat we buy is 100% grass-fed up until the bitter end.
But
so they have at least some months of terrible, mistreatment.
So they do a lot of grazing, and then they do corn.
That's what I said.
Obviously, like that. Yeah, but that's like factory farming is like a little bit different. I think that is like a context of like.
My understanding is that they're putting
living conditions.
Yeah, my understanding is that the living conditions of cows who are corn-fed is not great, and it's certainly not frolicking in the fields.
I mean, I'll show you pictures of cows hanging out in the field.
I'm not saying they're not in their fields their whole lives. I'm talking about when they're being corn-fed.
What happens
well, I
when
don't
the
know
corn
if they
fed?
get
Are they
corn-fed.
put in? Are they
Yeah,
being
incarcerated? Like
Yeah.
They're being corn-fed. They just go to a place where they're fed it. They don't
Oh, they go to a
leave. They
place.
just
Go to a place. What's it
why
look
don't
like?
they just leave corn out for them then in their troughs? Why do they
Well, how
put them
about
in
that? Whenever he shuts up, and I'll explain it. There's a shed where all the feed is kept, but they won't let them outside of so they don't go eat the grass. But it's like a shed where, I mean, it's probably not as great as not being outside, for sure. But it's not like inside of there is like all the whirring buzzsaws, and it's just to prevent them from eating grass.
Yeah,
so that corn finished.
So what happens with cows? Sorry, I'll cut you off, Heidi. So what's wrong with eating a cow that's just been grass-fed? It doesn't produce enough meat. The meat isn't fat enough.
It
People
tastes
don't like
better.
to
Yeah.
Oh,
more for us. So I don't know if the way it's like a dumb argument. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're
and there's, like a lot of
if
vegans
the
will
world
say,
was different, it would be.
Heidi, no, I didn't say. Look, Heidi, a lot of vegans will tell you that even in a world like this, it's not good to eat meat. They'll disagree. I'm not saying in a world that is different, it is different. That's a tautology. People agree. There's a lot of people that disagree with that. In that world, even, it would be like okay to eat meat.
Well, okay, so that's not an argument that eating meat is morally permissible. That's just like a consistency check against vegans or something. Like you're saying, some vegans that you think I don't know, have a different view of it. That they think even if it was like utopia for cows, they still shouldn't eat meat, right?
Well, all I'm saying is my argument. What I was saying wasn't a tautology because you kind of like categorize it as a tautology.
If it was in a different world, would it be okay? Right.
Well, look. So I personally think that like there's a lot of places right now where this is the world we're talking about. But you know, I don't want to debate you on that because that's going to require like what Albedo did, which is like show you pictures of these places and like tell you how they treat the cows. Yeah, so that's fine. That's why I said. That's why I wanted to move the conversation up. Let's just skip the whole like appearance thing and just talk about even if that was the case, would that be fine?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I agree. However, I mean that doesn't really help us today. With the moral decision we have today is when you go to the grocery store, you know, to buy the chicken or to buy the tofu.
So it does if we think that there are some places currently where that is the case, where they are mostly happy. And remember, my argument isn't just, I just want to make one thing clear. My argument isn't that like, they have to be 100% grass-fed. I'm just saying like on average they're happier than like they're sad.
Okay.
That's it. I'm not saying they have to be 100% grass-fed.
Well, look, a lot of people make that compromise where they're like, all right, well, I'll just buy the organic meat, I'll buy the grass-fed and stuff like that. And I would argue that's better, yeah. But I mean,
I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's morally bad not to do that. I'm saying like
why was it? You mean because you want the cow to have the experience of but the cow. Look, if that's your option, then maybe it would be morally better, right? But that just isn't. That isn't the meat we consume. Certainly in the United States. Certainly, I would argue most of the developed world.
Okay, so just to be clear, the cows that like Albedo was talking about, I'm saying that those cows, if the choice is to either buy that meat or not buy that meat, it is morally bad to not buy the meat, and it is morally good to buy the meat. Do you agree with that?
No.
Okay, why not? Let's just be clear. Hold on a second.
Well, I'll tell you. Because I
want to make it really
that they're killed humanely. What we know of slaughterhouses is they're often not killed humanely. I also think that a human being who works in a slaughterhouse is under great moral hazard, and in fact, they have like PTSD from what they see. I think this is a fairy tale. Like, oh, the cow frolicking, the happy life, and the painless death. That's not how it goes down.
Okay, so if what Albedo was saying is true, let's just be.
For your mind, you don't. It's not enough for you to think about things by yourself. Right?
If you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll bring you up. If you have questions, just raise your hand. I'll bring you up.
If you have a question, just raise your hand. Happy to bring you up.
That's talking about Musa and Adam